The burial of Jesus Christ might seem like a somber historical footnote, but what's fascinating is how this brief moment between crucifixion and resurrection contains some of history's most dramatic character transformations.
That's such an interesting perspective. We often rush past this part to get to Easter morning, don't we?
Well, what really grabs me is how these two prominent Jewish leaders suddenly emerged from the shadows at this crucial moment. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus had everything to lose, yet they chose this incredibly risky time to finally take a public stand.
Hmm. Tell me more about what they actually risked. These weren't just ordinary citizens, right?
Oh no, these were members of the Sanhedrin, the very council that had condemned Jesus. And they didn't just quietly claim the body. They brought about 75 pounds of expensive burial spices and offered a brand new tomb. That's like a modern billionaire publicly defying their entire board of directors.
You know what's fascinating about that amount of spices? That quantity was typically reserved for royal burials. They were essentially giving Jesus a king's funeral.
Exactly. And they had to complete this elaborate burial process before sunset when Sabbath would begin. So picture this, they're racing against time, handling a body which would make them ceremonially unclean for Passover, all while risking discovery by their colleagues.
The timing aspect is really crucial here. They had maybe 3 hours at most to complete everything properly.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. The Roman soldiers who executed Jesus were experts at their job. When they approached to break his legs to speed up death, a common practice, they found him already dead, which was highly unusual.
That detail about breaking legs, it was actually requested by the religious leaders who wanted the bodies removed before Sabbath, right? The irony of their concern for religious purity while dealing with an execution is pretty striking.
You're absolutely right about that irony. And speaking of unexpected details, when one soldier pierced Jesus' side, both blood and water flowed out. Medical experts today suggest this could indicate a ruptured heart, though some scholars see it as evidence of supernatural preservation of Jesus' body to decay.
The level of specific detail in these accounts is remarkable. It's almost like reading a medical examiner's report.
Well, that's because John, who witnessed all this firsthand, seems particularly intent on establishing that this was a real physical death. He even emphasizes multiple times that he personally saw these events unfold.
Let's talk about the location. There's something significant about it being a garden tomb, isn't there?
Oh man, this is where it gets really interesting. The garden setting creates this incredible literary and theological arc from the Garden of Eden, where sin entered the world, to this garden tomb, where sin's power would ultimately be broken.
And it wasn't just any tomb. It was specifically a new one where no one had ever been laid, which fulfilled yet another ancient prophecy.
That's right. And speaking of prophecies, it's mind blowing how many Old Testament predictions converged in these moments. Isaiah had foretold hundreds of years earlier that the Messiah would be pierced for our transgressions and buried in a rich man's tomb.
The mathematical probability of all these specific prophecies being fulfilled by chance must be astronomical.
You know what's particularly powerful about this whole account? Even in this darkest moment, we can see incredible purpose and planning. Every detail, from the timing to the location to the people involved, seems orchestrated for maximum impact.
That's such a profound observation. Even the practical aspects served larger purposes. The tomb's proximity to the crucifixion site made the rapid burial possible and allowed for easy verification of what happened next.
And while those disciples couldn't see it yet, while they were racing to complete this burial before sunset, they were actually participating in something far bigger than they could have imagined. Sometimes our moments of greatest courage come when we can't yet see the full picture.
Well, that really brings it home. How often do we find ourselves in similar situations, having to take bold stands without knowing how things will turn out?
Exactly. And that's really the challenge this account presents to all of us. Are we willing to step out publicly for what we believe in, even when it might cost us something? Those two leaders finally chose to stop hiding in the shadows, and their actions are still inspiring people thousands of years later.